forward. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ian Lee with Skillings Inc. And so I prepared a short presentation as to the status of the Romance Hill Road Extension project. There we go. Just to give you a brief rundown on where we're at project-wise. We've done our alternative analysis. We've selected a alternative to proceed preliminary design on. We've shared with Washout as well, where we're proposing to connect the Romance Hill extension with the freight corridor alignment. And so a lot of our preliminary investigations at this point have been completed. We've done preliminary topo survey along the preferred alignment. We've also done our geotech screening and our environmental screening. We've also completed our geotechnical test bits out there. We have our traffic analysis draft report done. And at this current point, we've prepared our Navy Railroad easement application packet. I believe that's 99% done. And so we're looking to submit that packet here probably this week to get that permitting process for the easement application started. Just to give you a brief history of the different alternatives we looked at over here at the very, over here is where the existing Romance Hill kind of ends. And so we looked initially at several different alternatives, as well as what that would look like at the connection point with the SR3 freight corridor. And we pretty much settled on alternative 2, and primarily it's because of these wetlands that kind of impact the alternative 1 alignment. And so there down here, there's a break between the 2 wetlands, which made alternative 2 a little more feasible in terms of impact, as well as the topography and Washout's proposed vertical alignment for the freight corridor. That makes this a pretty suitable location for a roundabout at the intersection point. This is just a map that kind of shows the locations of the test pit studies that we did for geotech. We sampled about 8 test pit locations, 7 or 8, and found that the soils were fairly consistent. Type of soil that we find here would be very consistent with the type of soils that were found as part of the sewer crossing. And so we would be looking at the same types of, I would say, challenges maybe in terms of the borings for the crossings for Romance Hill. Here's a slide that kind of shows the proposed roadway section for the Romance Hill Extension Road. We've got 12-foot travel lanes, 1 lane each direction, as well as 5-foot shoulders. This is an image that, as part of the Navy easement application process, we prepared sort of a proposal document that outlined the information that they requested, as well as provided a bit more information and context, such as pictures, as well as a visualization of what the crossing location would look like. And so as part of that easement application packet, we're going to be providing the profiles as well as plans that kind of show all the utilities that are going in as part of the road extension project. So far, we've got power. Mason PUD Tree has asked for overhead and underground power, and so we went ahead to provide details to the Navy as part of the review process to ensure that we meet all their design criteria as well as their clearance requirements for overhead underground. This is an example of a board casings that we're proposing for the new utilities. And what we'd be doing is to do a shared casing, so a outer casing with a casing spacer that kind of holds the remainder of the utilities that are crossing as well. We've got power from HPUD, we've got water and sewer for Belfair, Water District number 1, as well as fiber lines for CenturyLink and grid broadband. We've also looked preliminarily at a concept of the roundabout for the connection point, and we haven't fully fleshed out the concept for the connection point, and so that kind of brings us to where we're at in terms of next steps for the project. Our immediate goal is to submit the application, easement application packet, so kind of get that process started, and then as part of our phase 1 scope of work, we're going to be completing the remaining preliminary design elements such as storm drainage, the roundabout geometrics, and then cost estimates, and then wrapping that up with a alternatives analysis memorandum that kind of summarizes and captures what we've done here in phase 1. Any questions so far?
Since there's not going to be access to the other side of the road, is a roundabout going to be necessary?
In terms of the connection point for the roundabout,
Romance Hill, at the top of Romance Hill, since there is not going to be any access to the other side of the highway, can it just be just a simple intersection?
I think initially there was talk about having a 4-way stop, but this future leg of the this fourth leg of the roundabout really is to serve the water treatment plant. This eventually will link to a frontage road for the water treatment plant as well as future development in this area, I suppose. I'm sorry, did that answer your question? Or?
Yeah, it did, but I don't know for sure that that's how we're going to access the water treatment plant, and we need to, I think, look at that. What we may be looking at is not a 4-way, just a 1-way stop sign at the top of Romance Hill.
Over on this side?
Yeah, if you take it all the way up to the top where you intersect here at the roundabout, if you're just intersecting into the bypass, so to speak, it may just be a stop sign at the end of Romance.
I believe we talked about that initially in terms of what that would look like, and my understanding of that is through discussions with WashDOT and the county as well, that a roundabout is the preferred intersection control.
That's correct, Ian.
Would we be shouldering the cost of that?
That would be future development. That's a conversation we need to have with commissioners, but our assumption is that would be a cost borne by future development.
Well, future development, though, we're talking about putting this in a few years. How does future development cover the cost of it?
That they would follow the design and the applicant. Basically, we've provided the design. Development would pay for the construction.
Wow, when did that? this was supposedly, this is why we put money aside. This was supposedly a design for the county to put in. When did it shift to that?
We could do that as well.
Well, all these years, has been the discussion. I didn't know there was ever any change at all in that. And that's why I'm talking about just a stop sign there at the end instead of a roundabout for just access to the one side, since we're not even going to the other side.
Yeah, DOT has a right out of the gate, any intersection with a state highway is right out of the gate a roundabout design.
Okay, we'll have to have further discussions on that, because that doesn't, when you have one road coming off, that not necessarily doesn't make sense. I see it all up and down the highways as I travel them now. I can understand when you have a four-way, as this one looks like it is.
Well, there's also three-legged roundabouts. There's lots of different designs for the roundabout.
We'll just have to have more discussion with the board concerning, you know, the construction of it. It would be probably cheaper to be done during the construction of SR3 freight route than to come back obviously later and install something like that through the developers. But you could set it up to where the county funds it initially and then some kind of program for development to do some kind of reimbursement.
Yeah, I'd like to have some conversation. I'm just blown away how these things just happen, and all of a sudden it shifts from everything that the commission had put forward for all these years. This has been what we put money away for. I don't understand how we keep missing these historic pieces. But we'll deal with it another time, please.
Yes.
Ian, could you walk through the easement with the Navy and what that all entails and what our expectations should be with that? That's been a concern of mine from the beginning here, and just kind of want to get, you know, maybe dial in on that a little bit more from your perspective.
Are you talking about in terms of the process, the timeline, or what ultimately we get out of the application process?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the easement application for the Navy is the timeline wise, we kind of anticipate that the Navy initially does their first review in terms of the submission. And so they have a singular point of contact. I think that's Alan Burdick. And so he takes the packet, reviews it, and then makes a recommendation of to proceed or not. But then they handle that internal coordination. And so part of that involves routing the packet throughout the Navy, through the different departments, as well as the railroad company, Genesee and Wyoming in this case, or part Puget Sound and Pacific Railway, which is part of Genesee and Wyoming, would be reviewing in terms of the engineering aspect of it. And so let me go back a couple slides here. And so in terms of the application, we'd be asking for a 100-foot wide easement, but rather than just a utility easement, it's going to be a combined easement application for a roadway plus the utilities as well. And so our thought is pretty quickly, I think we would know probability wise of what they'd be looking for in terms of the easement application. And so our thought is to get that process rolling, submit the documents as requested by the Navy, but then progress on design on the back end so that we're ready to go when easement application is approved. And so in terms of timeline, the 1 year timeline is not a unreasonable estimate, but we're somewhat convinced that there will be additional conversations between submittal and the application approval process that we would have discussions as to what we need to change in order to get this approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners, for Ian or for ourselves?
I have nothing right now. I'm sure I will. I'm just kind of trying to absorb everything. So thank you.
And then commissioners, as far as follow-up, as Mike said, we'll be planning a follow-up session with you to discuss, again, some more details about timing, schedule, and funding for the projects. Make sure that we are all on the same page.
Works for me.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, no problem. I'll stop my screen share.
All right. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners. Sorry, we ran a little late on you. We'll wrap up. If you still want to spend time to talk a bit about Log Yard Road. So this is the connection east from SR3 out to the freight corridor. And Mike and Dave can give you a quickie update on that.
Yeah, originally we were going to do a similar setup as Romance Hill with the consultant, but after we analyzed this project with our staff, we decided that we could do this in-house. We don't have a railroad crossing to deal with or anything, so this is pretty straightforward. We are just here in preliminary. We haven't got a slideshow to show you or anything. So we will be setting up meetings with WashDOT here in the next few weeks to get the information from them where their alignment is in this area, because that's the key. There's other wetlands that have already been delineated and other obstacles. So we feel pretty confident we can come up with a good alignment to connect up to the freight corridor. So,
and in terms of stakeholders, we've also been coordinating with Bremerton and their transportation folks as well, because this alignment also has a leg on the other side. So it's a 4-leg roundabout that would connect on up to the port property, and a planned extension of a road from the port down to Lake Flora. So we've got collaboration to do and continue to do with the city of Bremerton and the port.
So you'll have drawings and sketches at a later date?
Correct. Yeah. Mike says, let us at it. I don't know if you could hear that.
Good job.
He's ready to rip.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and we've been steadily asking DOT, when can you release some plans for us? But they've been spending time nailing down the north end in particular. So we've been very anxious to get the alignment as well. Dave keeps worrying that it's in Kitsap instead of Mason.
It's gonna be close.
We're close.
That sounds good. Commissioners, do you have any questions for them?
Not for me right now.
Okay. And so this project is, as you know, commissioners, on our TIP that was just recently approved. So we can get rolling on that beginning of the year. Well, we've already been scoping and rolling to some degree, but as an official project that is on our TIP.
Well, it's exciting to me to see that it's, it's moving. Sometimes you feel like, government works really slow, which we do, but knowing that it's in the works is comforting.
Yeah, it is. We've also been having some preliminary conversations with folks about the west side of SR3 as well. So lots of transportation planning in the north end for sure.